The wind howled out of the blackness beyond the broken northern sky, a low-voiced dirge rolling over the white immensity of the haunted forest. Pine and dead birch shivered like penitents while ghost snow whirled through branches, stripped months ago by winter's teeth. Atop a ridge of stone glazed to glass by endless freeze, a dozen figures watched those restless trees. Their pale eyes, neither blue nor silver, but a depthless blend of both, mirrored the moon. No breath steamed from their thin lips, no heartbeat troubled their translucent skin. Ice armor, the color of dawn's first light, clinked as they shifted, and yet the sound was softer than flakes kissing a frozen pool. In their midst stood the one Westerosi small folk had named the Night King, though the title meant nothing in the language of creaking frost and cracking glaciers. He raised an arm whose veins shimmered with captured starlight, and the wind stilled, as though winter itself hushed to listen. Below, beyond the last scraggly pines, the wall loomed, an impossible sky-piercing slab lit here and there by guttering watch torches. It was cracked now, rent by wildfire and dragon flame and the collision of ancient magics. But even wounded, the colossal bulwark radiated power. The Night King stared upon it in contemplative silence, remembering an age before its birth, an age when pact had followed war, and the cold folk of the far north had walked among the children of the green gods as uneasy equal. The pact lay shattered. Men's memories were short and their blades sharp. They had forgotten the quiet language of promises spoken beneath a direwolf moon. Yet memories lingered in the long lives of ice-bound kings. And so, for the first time in thousands of seasons, White Shadows gathered not as an army of annihilation, but as an embassy. Behind the Night King, a smaller shape moved, a woman tall as a spear, her face a lattice of hoarfrost lines, her crown nothing more than curved antlers of clear ice. She was called Frost Mother by those who worshipped the cold, though she would have answered to no tongue born of warm blood. She drew nearer, silent as rime blooming across a pane. When she spoke, her words slid through the winter air like distant chimes. The wall stands weakened, yet their fear remains unbroken. They will not parley while they believe they can prevail by sword and fire. A long pause followed while pale eyes traced torch paths along crumbled battlements. Finally, the Night King's lips parted. His voice sounded like ice fracturing inside mountain caverns, each syllable a fracture line. They will remember, or they will learn anew. He lifted a hand, and frost gathered upon his gauntlet, coalescing into a spear of clear, freezing fire. With a slow turn, he gestured south, where white land gave way to green. Far beyond that wall, too distant for mortal eyes, yet close enough for those woven of winter's thought, a darker warmth flickered. Winterfell's watcher fires burned inside a snow-wrapped shell of stone, their glow red as living blood. Men and women hurried along battlements, cloaks snapping, faces pinched. Rumor had outrun wind. The dead had come again, yet, unlike the savage tide broken 2 turns of the moon ago, these walked with banners furled and weapons sheathed. Fear, wonder, and a treacherous hope rippled along the stark walls. Within the great hall, Jon Snow pressed an unsteady hand to the scar along his ribs, thin as quill jink, yet burning whenever storms gathered. He stood before the carved heart tree pillar, cloak damp with melted snow, hair drawn back in a warrior's knot he scarcely felt. Ghost lay at his feet, red eyes fixed on the doors, as though already seeing the shapes Jon's mind struggled to fathom. Beside Jon waited Sansa, face pale but composed, auburn hair bound beneath a spiraled silver circlet. Her fingers tapped the hilt of a dirk hidden beneath velvet folds of midnight blue. Arya leaned against a stone brazier, eyes narrowed. The old wolf, now wearing many human faces, but choosing the one that fit best for war councils. Stark steel, cold, and lean. Bran's chair had been rolled in near the high table, his gaze milky and fathomless, drifted somewhere far beyond stone and snow, and the flames seemed to bow in his presence. Davos Seaworth stood 3 paces to Jon's right, smelling of salt and cabinwood, rubbing the rough scars where finger bones had once protruded. Near him loitered Tyrion Lannister, quill poised above parchment, a half-drained cup of fortified wine clutched between Enkia-smudged fingers. Samwell Tarly paced nervously, arms full of weather-cracked scrolls describing the cold pact of the Dawn Age, half legend, half warning, and wholly unheeded till now. A heavy thud cascaded through chamber doors. The iron hinges groaned open to admit a swirl of night air, and a man scarcely taller than Bran, swathed in layers of fur that steamed in the heat. The ranger's eyes were glassy with shock. "Your Grace," he rasped, "the watch has sent a raven. It arrived with frost on its wings. They say White Walkers approach Eastwatch, flying a banner of truce." The hall erupted in voices, disbelief, panic, scoffing laughter. Only Jon remained still, breathing slow, as though he had trained all his life for this single impossible sentence. He raised a hand, stilling the uproar. "Tell the watch," he said, "that the dead may enter our realm under guest right. Have them bring the walkers to the Weirwood Hollow at dawn. No blades, no dragons, no wildfire. Only words." "Why?" Sansa's voice was a low hiss. "You would invite myths into our heart, without a sword to greet them." Jon met her gaze. "If they come in peace, steel dishonors us and dooms any hope. If they come to kill, steel won't save us." Across the dim hall, a log popped within the hearth. Sparks drifted upward like lazy fireflies. The hush that followed felt enormous, as though the entire North leaned in to listen. 2 days later, dawn seeped through layer upon layer of high, bruised clouds. The godswood smelled of wet earth, old sap, and the faint copper bite of distant snow. The heart tree's red leaves rustled despite windless air. Jon stood before its face with Ghost at his side. Across a clearing blanketed in new powder, 12 White Walkers emerged. They moved without footprints, yet powder sagged as if bowing to something heavy. Faint tendrils of chill spread like searching fingers around their feet, turning tufts of grass into brittle crystal. The walkers halted at the verge of the Weirwood's roots. Farther back, stark guards ringed the glade in silent ranks. Archers knelt behind moss-coated stones. Arya crouched in the limbs of a leafless elm, hand poised near needle's hilt. Davos and Tyrion observed from an unlit brazier shadow. Bran watched through ravens, perched above, his mind unfolding like fresh snow. The Night King stepped forward. He bore no spear now, only a rod of pale willow bound in iron bands that smoked where fleshless fingers gripped it. He raised it, point downward, and pressed its tip into loam. Hoarfrost crawled outward in a widening circle. When he spoke, his voice did not shatter the silence. It deepened it, a resonance felt as much within bone as ear. Old blood, elder's song, broken pact. We come to mend the cut that never healed. War shall swallow all. Man, wood child, giant, dire wolf. We would halt its jaws, if men remember how to speak before they scream. Jon found his voice after heartbeat-long eternities. You slaughtered thousands, not a moon passed. Hard to speak with hands that still drip. The Night King tilted his head. Harder still to speak with tongues rotted by fear. Learn, Lord of Wolves. War feeds upon itself. The river of death you tasted was but a tributary. The tide swells behind the horizon of time. We would stem it together. Jon's brow furrowed. Behind him, Sam held a trembling parchment, recalling how ancient scribes told of a cataclysm beyond even the long night, of a star-eater stirring under shaking sky. A doom ice and flame together could not best. Sam whispered, "These words, They match old prophecies never given to maesters. Something worse comes. Jon faced the walkers again. What offer do you bring? The Frost Mother stepped forward. She leaned, pressed a palm like polished quartz to the frozen ground. Crystal tendrils fanned outward until they framed a disk of ice smoother than any mirror. Within that disk, images spun, the wall collapsing fully, castles burning, seas boiling under storms of black hail, dragons shrieking as they fell from ash-choked skies. But woven through ruin was another vision. White walkers and men fighting together upon shining plains. The wall regrown in towers of seamless ice. A harvest of spring wheat waving across once frozen fields under soft light. Our swords of cold and your blades of steel can craft a shield wider than the world, the Frost Mother murmured. But only if forged in trust, cooled by time. Jon exhaled a ghost of breath. Trust is a fragile fire in winter. What do you want for this alliance? Sanctuary, said the Night King. South of the shattered wall lies the bite of your iron. You would let it rest. The lands beyond Frostfangs will be ours. No axe shall cut, no torch shall burn. In return, we gift you that which was stolen. The lost histories, the secret of binding dragon fire to glass, the memory of souls and ice, and we stand beside you when the outer dark arrives. A silence thicker than frost settled. Jon felt those near him shift, hearts racing loud enough for wolves to hear. Sansa's voice broke the hush. And you will take no more living for your ranks. The Night King inclined his head, a motion grave and surprisingly human. We harvest only what men leave behind. Jon's mind churned. Could one bargain with storm incarnate? Could he trust visions shown in ice? Behind memory hovered Ygritte's laugh, Val's counsel, Tormund's roar, each urging caution, each whispering time, for boldness is now or never. He turned to the heart tree, laid a gloved hand against its crimson bleeding bark. I was once a crow who broke vows, then a king who bent knee. I have served life, I have served death. If both now stand together against oblivion, I will not be the fool who divides them. He faced the walkers. You shall have sanctuary, but the North answers to her people. The lords must consent. You will enter Winterfell's hall at dusk, without arms, to speak before them. The Night King's lips curved in a semblance of a smile, faint as twilight frost upon river stones. We accept. That dusk burned pale and cold. Torches lined Winterfell's yard, their flames pale where chill gnawed. People gathered in masses, lords in heavy brocade, small folk in patched cloaks, wildlings in furs stiff with old blood. They watched with wide, fear-gilded eyes as a procession of winter's children crossed the yard. No white walked among them, only the king, the Frost Mother, 10 sentinel warriors armored in ice-glass scales that refracted torchlight into brittle rainbows. Ghost trotted beside Jon, white fur rippling. As the Night King entered the hall, flickers of fire dimmed. Candles guttered, yet did not die. The air cooled, but frost stopped just shy of the threshold stones, as though restrained. The first to greet the king was Lyanna Mormont, small, fierce, unbowed. She stepped toward him, with her clan's great bear cloak dragging snow, chin lifted. My mother taught me to face storms head gone, she declared. If you wish alliance, speak plain. Her voice quavered only slightly. The Night King bowed fractionally. Plain words, your lives end without us. Shock rippled. Arya's hand twitched toward her hidden blade. Sansa's lips tightened in anger. But Jon lifted a palm. That is truth we suspected. Tell us more plainly. What hunts beyond? The Frost Mother spread long fingers. Hush, settled so deep every log's crack popped like thunder. Her voice carried visions, a sky torn asunder by green fire, a nameless tide devouring Valyrian freehold long after its doom, a comet born, not of this world, but of the night between stars, its tail dripping void fire. Under that comet armies of hollow men marched, their helmets carved in twisted smiles, their banners sewn of flayed constellations. Dragon flame washed over them and died. Only a weave of ice and living blood, of weirwood root and obsidian shard, cast them back. They awake again, she said. They follow the comet's next return, 7 turns of the moon hence. Its vanguard will pierce your sky. Murmurs rippled like mice across straw-dy white. Tyrion wet his lips, whispered, 7 moons. Jon felt Winterfell's stone beneath his feet and the starker weight of every life within its walls. He turned to his people and spoke in the plain voice of the North. I have bled for this realm. I have died for it. I will kneel to no terror birthed of night sky, nor will I let pride blind us to allies sent by fate. The walkers seek refuge. We will grant it. They offer strength. We will grant it. They offer strength. We will test it. They warn of a darkness. We will meet it. But this cannot be my choice alone. Here. And so began a night of debate like none other. Glover stormed. Karstark cautioned. Umber shouted. Reed whispered prophecy. Lady Mormont bared teeth. Through it all the Night King watched, silent, eyes alive with the patient curiosity of glaciers grinding stone to dust. He spoke only when silences deepened beyond endurance, answering accusations not with denials, but with memories older than recorded time. He recited the names of first men heroes long forgotten. He told of Fey children, now vanished, whose songs had once echoed through frostbound valleys. He confessed to sins committed when the world was young, and mercy, a concept yet unknown even to gods. Each word fell like icicles breaking free at last light, hard, brittle, unavoidable. By candle's gutter, just as dawn's first tarnished glow touched arrow loops, the hall's clamor ebbed. Tired eyes turned toward the dais where Sansa stood, heavy cloak wrapped tight. She surveyed her people, her brother, the dead things that yet lived before her. Then, with a voice that carried the iron memory of Ned Stark and the flint resolve of Catelyn Tully, she spoke. Winterfell was built upon trust, sworn between enemies. The first men carved their faces into trees. They did not worship until they shared them with the children of the forest. Blood and belief entwined to birth new strength. Today we stand where they once stood. I will not let fear break what courage might mend. House Stark consents to parley, consents to sanctuary. Let any lord who would quarrel with that ancient custom speak now. No, Corsi. Silence answered. Outside the hall, dawn bloomed wan and bruised. The pact, fragile as frost upon a blade's edge, existed, born in the hush after long conflict. Yet even as relief trembled through tired hearts, Bran stirred in his chair. His voice, though soft, cut sharper than Valyrian steel. Pact is but a seed, he said. The soil ahead is cruel. We must tend it or watch it perish. The Night King's eyes flickered toward the boy who was many things. Raven, root, memory, and something like recognition passed. With slow deliberation, he drew from his side a shard of night-colored crystal no longer than a man's finger. He held it out to Jon. The shard pulsed faintly, as though housing distant thunder. Key, he intoned. When outer dark arrives, touch this to the heart tree's wound. The gate between frost and flame will open, and our armies will march as one. Nazir Munin, Deshi. Jon accepted the shard, feeling cold radiate through leather to palm. He tucked it inside his cloak. Then let us pray spring finds us united before the black season falls. High on ramparts, ravens stirred, beating black wings into a gray morning. Far in the haunted mountains, something vast turned in its sleep, hearing alliance whispered upon wind. In crypts beneath Winterfell, statues dreamed old dreams of wolves and snows and swords, raised against the night, while somewhere in the dark between stars a comet's fire tail began its long turn northward. The 5 hours that followed would chart the first fragile steps of living and dead toward common cause. Yet beneath every gesture lay the knowledge of scales unbalanced, past blood demanding future price, and of a horizon bruised the color of secrets yet to sharpen their fangs. Mordain, Sheldon, dies. The ravens came with the first clear dawn in nearly a fortnight, a rare shard of blue opening above Winterfell's snow-buried roofs. Their wings beat the brittle air in a clutch of 7, each bird carrying a wax-sealed tube through which frost had wormed during the night flight. Maester Walken retrieved them at the rookery and hurried, breath steaming, down stone stairs slick with rime. By the time he reached the solar, steam rising from the brazier had already painted his spectacles dull, and he nearly collided with Podrick Payne standing guard outside the door. Inside, the circle of decision-makers waited. Jon and Sansa at opposite sides of an oval oak table, Bran near the fire, Tyrion poring over ledgers, Davos sharpening a short dirk more out of habit than need. The Frost Mother occupied the shadowed corner opposite the hearth. Her presence dimmed the flames, yet no one dared suggest she step back into the courtyard chill. Walken unfurled the first scroll, the sigil of House Umber, stamped in red wax nearly as thick as a thumb. Last Hearth reports a series of small folk disappearances, he stammered, voice echoed by the caw of ravens still settling on the windowsill. Tracks lead north into the shivering forest. Lord Umber fears raiders. Davos Whetstone paused, mid-stroke. His gray eyes flicked to Jon. Jon turned toward the Frost Mother. Your watchmen cross those woods nightly. Would they steal children? Her head inclined, ice antler crown groaning softly. Our sentinels touch no breathing flesh, she replied, but there are things older than my king's rule that prowl abandoned places. Some stir now, drawn by new pulse of blood and fear. Me. A second scroll bore Lord Glover's mark. Wolves sighted along the King's Road in packs of unnatural size, their eyes a dull, glassy blue. Arya muttered from her perch on the pilaster, dead things off their leash. Bran's pale gaze refocused, and he spoke softly. Necromancy beyond the walker's craft. Something or someone tests the brittle rim of the pact. His chair's wooden wheels creaked as he drew a shallow breath. These wolves are puppets, cut free to bite trust apart. We must answer swiftly. Tyrion tapped quill tip against parchment. Answer with blade or with show of unity. A single stroke premature could slice the noose we're trying to weave. His eyes darted to the Frost Mother. I propose we send a joint party, men and walkers side by side, to hunt whatever mischief brews. Make the alliance more than ink. A hush gathered. Jon's jaw tightened. To march under pale banners so soon risked panic, as if Winterfell's uneasy calm were a crust of snow over a river still half-thawed. Yet he felt Tyrion's strategy clutch at him with cold reason. People believed in what they saw. Sansa rose. Very well. Let the North behold its allies, but choose the party carefully. Her gaze slid toward Davos. We need commanders trusted in every hall from White Harbor to Bear Island. 2 hours later, the courtyard rang with iron on stone as riders mustered. Grey Windesu, Robb's namesake pup, now grown to massive adulthood, snarled happily at Ghost, then trotted circles around gray horses stamped with the Mormont paw. Lady Lyanna swung astride a shaggy Garen. Though the saddle dwarfed her slight frame, she rode it like a war king. Behind her, 24 spear wives of then adjusted greaves, bound with boiled leather and bone. At the yard's far end, The Frost Mother waited with 4 white sentinels. They bore no ice lances today, only curved blades forged of what appeared to be glass lit from within by frozen moonlight. Their footfalls left no prints, yet when they approached the horses' manes crackled with static chill. Brienne of Tarth took position at Jon's right, helm brushing low flakes drifting off the keep's eaves. Her broad shield bore the direwolf of Stark, quartered with her own sapphire sigil. Next to her stood Tormund Giantsbane, beard newly freed of icicles after long trudge from New Gift outposts. He slapped Jon's shoulder. "March south, march north, march into bed with the pretty cold lady, makes no matter. Long as we get meat to chew and monsters worth killing, the monsters we hunt may be more cunning than you think," Jon murmured, adjusting the strap on Longclaw's scabbard. Tormund chuckled. "Cunning I can handle, Snow. Cowardice still confuses me." The gates opened with a rumble. They even smelled different now, pitch and pine smoke cross-cut by a faint current like winter ocean surf. The Frost Mother raised her arm, and a column of white mist spilled outward, freezing mud ruts solid before the horses' hooves. So the expedition rode on a path of crystal pavement until pine shadows swallowed them once more. They traveled 2 days beneath sullen skies. On the second night, they camped amid the shivering forest, towering spruce vaults where wind moaned like a choir in ruined cloisters. Brienne set watches, pairing each Stark guard with an ice sentinel, a deliberate interlacing of trust. The campfire's orange glow refracted on the sentinel's armor, scattering embers of false dawn into treetops. Jon sat against a log, sharpening 2 dragon glass daggers while Ghost dozed, head on paws. Padantis. Lyanna Mormont questioned the Frost Mother with fearless curiosity. "If you are beyond death, what frightens you?" the girl asked. The Frost Mother's gaze drifted among shadows, as though listening for something moving outside the realm of hearing. "We feel fear," she answered. "Not of death, which is but variant rest, but of unmaking. There are fires so absolute they melt memory, leaving neither echo nor ice." Her tone carried weight of eons. The dark comets herald wields such fire. Lyanna massaged a numb finger through mitten slits. "Then let's hope our blades strike first." Far off, an owl hooted just as a breath of ice sighed through camp. Ghost sprang to his feet, hackles bristling. "Oh no?" The Frost Mother stood too, head turning north. Tormund felt his hair prickle. "We watch." Jon rose, scanning tree lines. No eyes gleamed, yet he sensed presence. The sentinels formed a half circle, their blades whispering out. Snow began to fall. Grainy pellets that pattered on tents like small stones. Brienne motioned his scouts forward. Lyanna drew her bear-claw-handled dirk, expression feral. The hush deepened, thick as starving wolves creeping through brush. Then a scream tore from beyond the ring of spruce. Human, ragged with terror. Jon bounded toward the sound, Longclaw bare. Tormund kept pace while Brienne thundered behind, shield raised. They crashed through brittle branches into a clearing where moonlight spilled in spectral torrents. There, 3 figures lumbered, a man, a woman, and a youth, all dressed in ragged hides. Small folk, likely from Umber lands, but their movements twitched wrong, as though the strings of muscle obeyed a distant puppeteer. Eyes glowed sickly violet, not the icy azure of walkers, but a bruised twilight hue. Black fluid pooled where the youth's leg dragged. Upon their brows, symbols had been carved, spiraling runes crusted in frozen blood. Jon halted. "Hold weapons," he ordered. The approach of steel might drive whoever commanded these thralls to slaughter them. He stepped forward slowly. "I'm King Jon of the North. Who holds you?" The thralls jerked stiffly, as if recognizing the voice yet resisting commands. Their lips parted, and a chorus issued. A single voice inside 3 mouths, deep and buzzing. Pale men break pact of night. You would chain cold to hot. Fire falls. Bone song rises. Brienne whispered, "Gods be good." Ghosts snarled, inching closer. Jones' pulse hammered. Who speaks? He looked at their carved brows. Runes matched none from old tongue or known occult. "Show yourself." In answer, the clearing's center split open, earth cracking vertically. Frost gusted upward, fusing branches overhead in jagged webs. An odor of deep cave rot spilled out. Something stirred below, unseen save for ripples in darkness. The voice pressed again through thralls. "Alliance is wrought. Ice will burn. Flesh will freeze. We swallow stars." Before John could shout, violet light flared, and the thralls convulsed. Their bodies arched, bones snapping inward like tents collapsing. Skin tore, releasing a cloud of sparkling dust that coalesced into a swarm of tiny shards. The swirl ascended, streaming with thousands of insectile chirps. John swung Longclaw, but wind parted around the dust. Brienne raised her shield. Shards ricocheted with metallic ring. Torment cursed as some sliced his cheek. The swarm spiraled skyward and vanished beyond pine canopy, leaving the clearing eerily silent except for Jones' ragged breaths. When they returned to camp, they found the Frost Mother kneeling among branches, one hand pressed to the soil. Sentinels fanned outward. John relayed what occurred. Her expression sharpened like cracking hoarfrost. "Veil breach," she hissed. "A wound torn between realms by sorcery older than even our forming. The Crimson Spiral. They mark thralls with that sign, forging vessels for the Star Eater's scouts." None, Julian, Doshken. Davos, awoken by the tumult, rubbed sleep from his beard. "Spiral? Like the shapes the free folk talk of seeing in melting ice?" "A symbol drawn by those who worship oblivion," Bran answered from where ravens perched above, voice carried through a black-winged messenger whose beak formed eerie mimic. "They have waited long beneath the roots of weirwoods burned, feeding on seep of memory. Now they rise." Tyrion joined, face one, torchlight. "We planned to show unity through hunt. Instead, we found prophecy gnawing at small folk." He sighed. "Still a lesson. Our enemies are neither the living nor the walkers, but whatever stirs them to fear." Morning, the party pressed deeper, tracking the dust swarm's last direction. They came upon a grove where snow sank as though over rotted pits. Brienne slid from saddle, thrust her spear into white crust. Wood hit air after mere inches. They brushed aside loose drifts to reveal a shaft descending into shadows streaked with violet sheen. "Warrens," muttered the Frost Mother. "Crimson priests burrow and hatch there." John peered downward. Faint chanting drifted up, words like grinding ice. He turned to Lyanna. "You will return to Winterfell with Davos. Warn Sansa, if we fail to return by 3 sunsets, call banners and seal the crypt mouth with wildfire." Lyanna opened her mouth to protest, but John locked gaze with her until she nodded. "The bear recalls orders," she muttered and beckoned 5 Mormont guards. Davos clapped Jones' forearm, murmuring, "Don't die again, lad," before following. John, Brienne, Tormund, Tyrion, 6 Stark men, and the 4 ice sentinels formed a descent column. The Frost Mother remained above to knit cold runes sealing the pit behind them, preventing retreat for anything else. She promised they'd reopen only at chosen signal, a plume of black smoke or the howl of 3 ice wolves. The tunnel spiraled, rough walls etched with those spirals again, each carved rune filled with resin that pulsed violet. Torches guttered in the chill. Long claws' blades steamed. They emerged into a cavern broader than the Winterfell godswood. Sharp spires of purple crystal jutted from floor and ceiling, reflecting torchlight into a hellish aurora. Between the spires stood hooded figures in robes the color of old bruises, chanting in low monotone. At the cavern's center, a rift hovered, a vertical tier of swirling obsidian mist, veined with sparks like dying stars. Tendrils from the rift touched rows of skeletal wolves, bears, and humans lying carefully arranged. Each was marked by the spiral carved into brow or skull. Tormund whispered, "Ugly Temple." The nearest priest turned, revealing a face whose flesh had been peeled back to raw sinew, preserved against decay by glistening lacquer. He hissed through exposed teeth, "Warm king trespasses. Pale princes betray starlit oath. Blood shall." His words cut off as an ice sentinel's blade darted, severing robe and bone alike. The priest dissolved into black smoke, drawn instantly toward the rift. The cavern erupted. Priests drew curved knives of smoking glass and charged with unnerving silence against stark shields. Crystal spires hummed, energy arced between them, sparking hair along everyone's arms. Jon parried a knife, frost blooming on Longclaw's edge where the blades met. Steel screamed, but held. He countered, slicing across ribs. The priest stumbled, yet violet light knitted flesh anew, knitting muscle like molten wax. Brienne's shields smashed skulls only for bones to slither back into place. Tyrion ducked behind a pillar, releasing crossbow bolts tipped in dragon glass. Where they struck, priests shrieked. Stone blood hissed into steam, and they collapsed, unable to reform. "Dragon glass," Tyrion shouted. "Only dragon glass severs their ties." Ice sentinels produced shards, hurtling them in shimmering arcs. Priests fell like broken marionettes, their bodies reverting to dust that streaked toward rift but dissipated before entry. Jon fought to reach the rift. Tendrils lashed out, icy hot, seizing edges of his cloak. Images slammed into his skull, planets devoured by living shadows, castles adrift in cosmic gulfs, a maw ringed by teeth the size of moons. He staggered, but Ghost barreled in from the flank, jaws snapping ethereal strands. Pain cleared Jon's sight. He noticed Brienne fending three priests, her sapphire sigil scoured by acid sparks. Tormund roared, swinging bone-handled axe to shatter a crystal spire, causing a tremor. Violet light flickered. The rift pulsed, narrowing. Tyrion scrambled up a mound of skulls until he stood at rift's threshold. From his belt, he drew a rod of black steel inlaid with runes Bran had carved the night before, Valyrian glyphs fused with weirwood script. He muttered half prayer, half curse, and rammed the rod into the tier. A peal like shattering mountains reverberated. The rift folded inward, sparks cascading as if stars were sucked into a drain. Wind blasted outward, throwing priests off their feet. Torches died but for the blue glow of sentinel eyes. When dust settled, silence reigned. The rift was gone, replaced by a slab of unfinished obsidian that shone mirror smooth. Priests lay broken, no longer reforming. Spires dimmed to dull crystal. Jon exhaled a ragged breath. Tormund clapped Tyrion's shoulder so hard the imp nearly toppled. Lion has claws after all. Tyrion rubbed aching ribs. Claws, yes. Fire, no. Let's depart before those spires decide to sing again. Their ascent proved slower. Tunnel walls groaned as though resenting the rift's closure. At top, they found Frostmother kneeling amid a circle of black snow. She rose, antlers dripping ice. "I felt Rip fall silent," she said. "You returned whole." "Mostly," Jon replied, wiping blood. She extended a palm, and stinging cold coursed through John's wounds, sealing them under glaze of frost that melted to pink scars. She did same for others. They burned the cavern entrance with wildfire, green tongues licking sky. Smoke pillar rose. Across miles wolves howled in triplicate. The Frostmother's sentinels echoed the howl, a ringing call unnatural to living throat. True to promise, she reopened the ice seal. Back at Winterfell, Sansa greeted them with mixture of relief and grim calculation. Word of the raid had preceded them via Ravens and Bran's sight. Lords assembled in hall. Glover, who had fumed days earlier, knelt first, an apology etched on lined face. Manderly followed, then Reed, tall and Reed slim, like the marshes he hailed from. Lady Mormont arrived behind Davos, carrying a priest's severed knife as proof. She laid it at Sansa's feet. "Poisoned truths," she spat, "but their strength is hollow and face." That night a feast was convened by dim candle and modest fare, stewed venison, black bread, strong ale. The Frostmother sat at high table's end, refusing food yet listening keenly. Jon raised a cup. "Tonight we drink not to victory but to awakening. We saw a glimpse of the darkness coming. It will reach beyond the gift, beyond the neck, beyond Dorne. Only united banners will stand." Murmurs rippled, cups clinked, yet unspoken doubts lingered. Tormund sensed them and thumped his fist. "Years we fought each other. Free folk, crows, stone men, giants. Where did that get us? Starving at world's edge waiting for night. Now we stand shoulder to shoulder. Feels strange. Good. Strange. Means we're changing. If you're still scared, remember, fear is food for those priests. So starve them." Laughter and cheers followed, warm enough to fog windows despite the Frostmother's presence. Later, Jon climbed Winterfell's highest parapet. Snow blew in swirling arabesques around his boots. He looked north, where the aurora flickered faint, hue tinged with violet even now. He fingered the night crystal key the Night King had given him. The shard pulsed lightly, answering the far-off stirrings of its maker. He wondered at the cost of this alliance. Would the North become a frozen sanctuary, ruled by an Ice Lord? Would Southern kings send fire and sword to break them? He knew only that the alternative lay beyond that violet glow, void that devoured worlds. Footsteps approached. He expected Sansa but found Bran instead. The boy's eyes mirrored starlight. "You closed one mouth of the beast," Bran said, voice soft, but more exist. They open like iron flowers along lines where lay and memory intersect. The next blooms beneath the shivering sea, and another sleeps under Old Town's roots. "How long till they awaken?" Jon asked. 7 moons to Vanguard, you were told. Yet time is fluid in those caverns. Some rifts already breathe. Bran's chair creaked as wind buffeted them. "We must forge chain of watches. Man, walker, child of forest, if any remain. Each link holds memory and will." Jon nodded. "And if links break, then the key you carry will open final gate," Bran said. "Where we stand or fall as one soul." Jon rubbed scar on his rib. "How do I prepare for that? Live each day as if peace were truth?" Bran replied, wheeling away. "Because when darkness arrives, only what you built in light will stand beside you." Weeks slipped by. Winterfell buzzed with activity unseen since Robb's marched south. Smithies rang from dawn to dusk, forging dragonglass arrowheads, spear tips, even scale mail weaved with thin obsidian plates at Sansa's insistence. Lighter, though brittle, but meant for scouts skirmishing the priests. The Frostmother taught Maester Walken the secrets of shaping ice glass into resilient panes that could shield archers while reflecting harmful incantation. She revealed the formula in crystalline glyphs burned by her fingertip across bronze plates. Wolkan deciphered them under Tyrion's watchful gaze. Each breakthrough he celebrated with mulled wine, which the Frost Mother declined. Yet her lip corners turned very slightly upward at the maester's flushed delight. The Night King resided beyond the ruined segment of the wall, raising a palace of silence from ice and granite shards. Through Bran's ravens, he sent periodic updates, new swirls of dust coalescing over Skagos, fishermen in Hardhome whispering of skeleton ships, crewed by priests of the Crimson Spiral, glimpses of a star streak far beyond the clouds, brightening fractionally each night. Jon dispatched envoys south. Brienne led riders to Riverrun, to parley with Edmure and the Blackfish's veterans. Davos sailed from White Harbor with Seaworth banners to treat with Dragonstone's garrison, now commanded by Gendry Baratheon, who hammered Valyrian steel with arms still scarred by chain. Messages were penned for Queen Daenerys at Meereen, though ravens seldom crossed such oceanic gulfs. Still, the attempt honored blood debts. Arya traveled alone to Old Town, disguised as a spice ship's sailor. She carried a sliver of rift crystal on Bran's instruction. Her letters arrived sporadically, each sealed not with wax, but with a pressed drop of her own blood, code they had devised in Braavos. She wrote of whispers in the Citadel's restricted stacks, of gray-robed maesters querying the sudden absence of certain star charts, of a hidden stair descending beneath the Hightower, where wind hissed like distant tide, though stone sealed every side. As snow yield gave way to a fragile sprouting of crocus and frost bloom, Ghost led daily patrols alongside two ice wolves, majestic beasts sculpted from ancient drifts by the Frost Mother's art, yet animated with the faintest spark of living essence, drawn from volunteer wildling spirits. They glided over snowfields like dreams, leaving patterns of lace. Children of Winterfell lined walls to watch them, fear replaced by wonder. Still not all hearts melted. The High Sparrow's successor in King's Landing, Septon Myler, preached sermons of abomination, denouncing compacts with demons. He urged King Tommen, still child, but enthroned behind Iron Throne's jagged spines, to send Southron armies northward to cleanse sin with holy flame. Reports of gold cloaks drilling beneath red banners reached Tyrion via whispering wood pigeons. He read them in the solar, frowned, and poured stronger wine. One night under full moon, Jon held council in Crypt's heart, before effigies of Stark kings whose stone direwolves slept eternally. The Night King attended, shimmering briefly through the key's vision, a mirrored apparition. Bran projected his consciousness through carved roots. The Frost Mother stood physically at Jon's side, while lords clustered with torches guttering. Bran spoke first. The Star Eater's vanguard emerges earlier than foretold. Comet speeds its cycle, perhaps drawn by our rift's collapse. We have 84 days before the first true breach above Skagos, then weeks until others flower like plague. Sigh. Jon addressed the lords. We must ready fleets for the shivering sea, regiments for the neck, watchers for the sky. We need southern grain, Dornish water, Valyrian steel. Every scrap. The Night King's reflection whispered within crystal facets. And we will muster the silenced legions, Iceborn Corps, who owe fealty to memory, not oblivion. But they require hearts of shade, crystals refined from dragon glass and living blood, fused beneath northern aurora. Lovers swallowed. Living blood. Volunteers, Jon said. A cup taken, not a life. He rolled up sleeve. Mine will be first. The Frost Mother produced a needle of clear ice. It pierced Jon's vein painlessly, drawing fluid that crystallized as it left his skin. She sealed the wound. Bran's eyes fluttered white as names scrolled inside his mind. Soldiers, elders, maids, each stepping forth to give. Stark guards volunteered. Torment laughed, thrusting brawny arm. Take enough, and I still crush skulls. In the forge yard that week, they melted dragon glass within crucibles of ice that never thawed, powered by captured blue flame from Walker's sorcery. The blood glass hearts emerged, faceted gems humming at threshold of hearing. Sentinels in silver blue mail placed them into chests of rune-carved weirwood, ready to seed legions unborn. As the 84 days dwindled to 40-odd, a raven landed on Bran's perch at dusk. Its legs bore no tube, only a spiral carved into bone strut. Bran's hand trembled. He closed his eyes. Sight spiraled south. Old Town bathed in last light, Hightower's beacon pulsing gold. Deep below, water-lapped foundations older than men remember. There, within a vast chamber of fused black stone, Arya knelt, in chains of obsidian thorns. Crimson priests circled, chanting. They meant to open the Old Town breach, using her blood and the stolen star maps. Bran's scream echoed through Winterfell's yard. Jon raced. The Frost Mother steadied the boy as his eyes bled thin trickles of scarlet. He gasped, "Old Town. They will tear the sky in 7 nights. They have the girl wolf." Jon's vision tunneled. 7 nights. Army to muster, seas to cross. He looked to the North's allies, Ice Kings, River Lords, Wildlings, Maesters forging unnatural steel. He looked to the sky where Violet stared back. Resolve coalesced like hoarfrost across his heart. "Then we march tomorrow," he said. "Not north, but south. The North has learned to trust the dead. Now the South must learn before it too is swallowed." Sansa placed a hand upon Longclaw's pommel. "The lords will come. They follow the wolf they see, even if it leads them through fire and ice both." Tyrion folded a map. "I'll prepare ravens for the Vale and Stormlands. If we arrive with White Walkers in tow, best to warn them before their archers loose arrows." Davos blew out breath. 7 nights. We'll sail from White Harbor on every hull that can float. Gods grant smooth water. Ghost howled, echoed by ice wolves on ramparts. And somewhere beyond, in Palace of Silence, the Night King lifted his spear of dawnlight and ordered legions to muster beneath the northern lights, ready to march alongside hearts that still beat. The pact, once myth, had become sinew and bone. Now would come trial by fire and void. An alliance hammered against twin forges of fear and hope. And as dawn crept the horizon, its pale gleam touched Winterfell's walls, not in white, but in faintest blush of violet. Promise and warning twined like wisteria around a blade poised at the throat of every living song in Westeros. Storm clouds crawled low above Winterfell, their bellies bruised purple beneath a veil of dying sunlight. Faint lashes of lightning flickered in those depths, silent but ominous, as if some unseen giant stitched the sky with glowing thread. Courtyard below breathed urgency. Smiths hammered dragonglass scale into leather harnesses. Wildling hunters stacked barrels of dried goat at the wagons, and maesters hurried between scribes and sentries, distributing sealed orders scented with hot wax. Word of the southern peril had flowed through every corridor like cold water through cracked stone. Old Town, seat of lore, gate to the south, lay in the jaws of the looming dark. In 7 days, a rift could rend its heavens wide and swallow Westeros from crown to heel. Jon stood upon the keep's highest parapet, the chill of the stone urging him to remain present, awake. His cloak whipped around him, thick as the nights he once spent along the wall. Every snap of it carried a memory. Ghostly wights climbing ice, Ygritte's laugh in snow caves, Melisandre's fire at Castle Black, the shiver when Arya named him brother again outside the collapsing Red Keep. Each recollection was a stone, building the resolve to face what lay ahead. Down in the yard, Sansa's voice rose in clear, tempered command. She walked the lines of assembled bannermen. Karstark spears and gray Clover axemen bristling in forest green Mormont shield maidens, with the painted bear crawling across rough-born oak, her words steadying them, reminding each of ancient obligations and the novel truth of the hour. They marched for the world, not merely the North. The Frost Mother moved silently beside her, a spectral advisor whose very presence cooled temper and metal alike. In the dusk gleam, the Ice Queen's antler crown looked forged from starlight caught mid-shatter. Jon felt Ghost's weight lean into his leg. The direwolf watched the bustle below with bright red eyes that missed nothing. 2 ice wolves stood beyond, motionless as carved quartz, yet every now and then, their heads tilted in unison, listening to some frequency of wind and memory Jon could not hear. He scratched behind Ghost's ear. "Soon," he murmured. He descended the winding stairs, boots striking a rhythm that made his mind catalog every duty left. Inspect the Dragonglass stores, confirm the fleet's muster at White Harbor, discuss with Bran the weirwood nets he meant to set along the neck. But first, a promise. He reached the library corridor, its window arches framing the final glow of day. Maester Walken waited, flanked by 2 stable boys bearing a chest carved from ironwood and banded in lead. Walken adjusted glasses. "My lord, your friend Samwell's raven arrived." He passed a scroll, edges faintly singed. Old Town's walls still stand, but the Arquebus Tower's beacon flickers violet at night. Sam fears the Star Eater's cult uses the Citadel's own mirrors to coax Skyfire. Jon's thumb traced Sam's hurried sigil, looping wax lines formed in quivering haste. "Tell him help sails by dawn," he said, "and keep this chest sealed until I place it in Gendry's forge myself." Inside rested 2 heart shards of blood glass, pulsing slow as glacier tides. They would serve as cores for the Silence Legions. Night fell. A hush, brittle but deep, blanketed Winterfell until only the clang of distant anvils and the hoot of snow owls broke it. Jon sat with Bran in the Godswood, the heart tree's face stark white against creeping darkness. Bran's gaze had the faraway glaze of sight, beyond sight. Frost rhymed his brows, though air felt still. "They will strike upon the 6th night," Bran whispered at last, voice slurred with dream. "Not the 7th. The priests accelerate. They fear our gathering might." Jon exhaled. "All the more reason to ride tonight." Bran's head inclined fractionally. "But haste invites hidden spears. Expect storms along the bight, unnatural teeth of lightning that taste for iron, and in the reach, the fey wisps of dusk will attempt to sway men's hearts. Keep torches of weirwood shavings near." Noted. Jon touched the night crystal key on its thong. "And these Silence Legions, how will they know friend from foe?" "Through the heart's beat you gave them," Bran replied. "When battle comes, breathe once into the laid chest. They will feel the resonance, recognize you." His eyes cleared slightly. "Do not hesitate. They will sense doubt as a false note." Jon reached and squeezed Bran's shoulder. "Rest. You'll guide us unseen." Bran's lips quirked. "I am already riding 10 roads." He closed his eyes, and ravens rustled above, black feathers fluttering like spilled ink. Before first light, Winterfell's gates groaned open, and the army streamed forth. Snowshoe hares darted for burrows as hooves crunched crusted snow. In the van rode Jon beneath a wool-wrapped cloak, mottled in gray and white, long claw at hip, Ghost trotting by, eager yet wary. Beside him Tormund Giantsbane joked about southern ale so weak it might freeze before reaching mid-tongue. Brienne sat tall on a destrier named Sapphire, her new dragonglass-rimmed kite shield strapped to saddle. Lady Lyanna led her bare standard, small figure a crisp silhouette against pale dawn. Behind their ranks marched the 4 ice sentinels, and 24 living volunteers, lightly armed but burdened with chests of blood glass and bundles of weirwood torches. Sansa, now Lady Regent of the North, stood on battlements, hair flaming in the lantern glow, watching until the last cart rolled under the portcullis. The Frost Mother remained at her side to instruct Winterfell's defenders in the delicate craft of cold barriers, should invaders come north in Jon's absence. When the banners vanished into birch shadows, Sansa whispered into the wind, "Keep him safe." Whether she meant the ancient queen or the old gods, even she could not say. 2 days' ride brought them to the frozen flats near Queen's Crown. The fields that had once sprouted barley now lay under a glassy sheet where sleet had melted and refroze. Scouts reported unnatural lights dancing beyond hills. Jon took 3 men and an ice sentinel to investigate. They discovered will-o'-wisps, bluish motes swirling above the ice. As they neared, whispers slid into their skulls, promises of warmth, of tender respite, of lost loves returned. One man dismounted, tears on cheeks, mumbling the name of a dead child. Before he could step onto the slick, the sentinel flung a shard of ice flame that shattered the nearest wisp. The rest screamed, their whisper turning shrill, and scattered westward. The soldier collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. Jon helped him stand and ordered extra vigilance. Tormund spat. "Tricks fit for craven sorcerers," he growled. That night they camped near the broken holdfast of Queen's Crown. The walls rose only waist-high, where years of pillage pulled them down. But the hilltop gave vantage enough. Jon paced perimeter, while Brienne drilled young Karstark recruits on forming shield walls, even in knee-deep slush. Torches burned with weirwood shavings, giving off a sweet, sharp scent like sap caught in cold fire. In the dark near distance, Jon glimpsed flickers of violet far across the shivering sea. A haze where none should be. He wondered if the priests had begun testing breaches ahead of schedule. Soon, he told himself, soon we end their games. At dawn, ravens brought news. Edmure Tully had raised the river banners. He would march toward the Roseford crossing, ready to link with Jon's host. Gendry Baratheon had finished forging the Silence Legion cores into spear points and mailed hearts. He rode north with a small detachment of Stormlanders to catch Jon on the Kingsrip. And from White Harbor, Wyman Manderley had dispatched every ship with a hull still afloat, 27 cogs and carracks under his grandson Sir Wendell, set to meet Jon's army at Maidenpool, where they would sail south along Westeros' spine. By midday, the host reached the last river's fords. Ice creaked under wagon wheels, but held. Here the forest gave way to snowy plains. Sunlight glared off the sheet, forcing men to shield eyes. Ahead, a ridge, cut by a stand of withered cedars, marked the route to the neck. Jon rode up that ridge to gain vantage, and drew Longclaw on reflex. Across the plain approached another force, banners of black-flayed men on pink field, the dread emblem of House Bolton. Yet the men beneath those banners marched ragged, some bearing white cloths tied to spear ends. At their head rode a gaunt figure, Lady Alis Karstark, once hostage to Ramsay Bolton, freed by Sansa's decree. She reined in before Jon and dipped head respectfully. "These souls were pressed by fear of chimera tales," she said. "But the bastard of Dreadfort is dead and buried. Their swords are yours if you'll have them." Jon studied the Bolton men, faces hollow with regret, others hardened by winters of guilt. He raised voice so all could hear. "The North remembers, yet the North forgives those who would fight beside us against oblivion." He pointed to the banner-bearer, a lank youth shaking under a sigil he likely hated. "Lower that flag and burn it. March under the Dayrolf or under no cloth at all." The youth dropped the pole. Flames soon ate the ragged pink and black. Cheers broke across both camps, muted but real. That night, by cedarwood fire, Lady Alis told Jon of dreams. Ramsay's ghost still haunting burnt halls at Dreadfort, whispering of skins he would yet wear. Priests, she said, hands trembling, have walked there, stirring bones. Jon promised to cleanse Dreadfort on return, but held it secondary to Old Town's peril. On the fourth dawn, a tempest rose. As Bran had forewarned, lightning webbed the horizon. Rain like shards of melted hail stung cheeks. The host slogged south through ankle-deep mud, progressed slow. An hour past midday, a bolt struck near the supply wagons. A wagon wheel exploded, sparks lit pitch-soaked canvas. Flames roared until Tormund and Brienne's quick work extinguished them with wet cloaks. No man died, but horses shrieked, eyes rolling. Jon called a halt in a depression ringed by standing stones. Ancient First Men graves. There they hunkered until storm passed. While rain still pattered, a scout galloped in. Sir Gendry approaches, my king, 30 men, heavy with gear. Moments later, Gendry's columns splashed into camp, Stormland pikes cresting above the mud like reeds. Gendry dismounted before Jon, muscles corded beneath chainmail, blackened by smoke of his forges. Finished as fast as I could, he said, grin weary but earnest. He produced a spear longer than any pike, its head a blood-glass heart encased in braided Valyrian steel. The weapon hummed softly. Tie these to your silent fellows. They'll wake when you breathe on them. Jon clasped Gendry's forearm, gratitude shining. Together they oversaw distribution. Each ice sentinel received a heart spear, and half the chests stored for future legionnaires. By dusk, Gendry and Tormund drank sour beer, boasting over who could hurl the spear farther. Their laughter eased taut nerves. As the moon climbed, Bran's ravens circled overhead, restless. Jon stood near one of the standing stones, carved in swirling runes half eroded. Frost Mother approached, her steps silent even on gravel. Sky sings of deeper frost, she said, gesturing north. Purple aurora shimmered faint on horizon, though no polar night cloaked them. The Star Eater's breath leaks. We must close Old Town Rift, or freeze while burning. Jon met her crystalline eyes. What awaits inside the Hightower's heart? The oldest library in your realm and beyond it, a well descending to black water drawn from world's womb, she replied. There, the priests cut the mirrors of dawn, polished obsidian discs that can magnify celestial fire. Then we shatter the mirrors, Jon said. Glass only bends well, Frost Mother countered. The rift must be sealed with memory. Jon frowned. Explain. She traced an icy finger across the stone rune, leaving a glowing line. Memory shapes realms. A wound opens when memory is corrupted. They twist Old Town's memory, a place once of learning, into altar of void. To heal the wound, we must flood it with pure recollection, names and lives, held fast. That is why you lead living hearts, why your silence legions carry pieces of blood and ice. They are vessels of memory. Jon's thoughts churn. So when we breathe into the legion, we infuse it with our memories. She nodded, and they will march those memories into the rift's heart, knitting the tear as they perish. Jon swallowed. How many must fall? As many as refuse to forget each other, she said softly. But better sacrifice chosen than doom drifting. His eyes closed briefly, conjuring faces. Sam laughing over stolen pies, Sansa dancing as a child around Bran, Arya's wry smile, Ed and Gran shouting vows at weeping eye statues. He opened them, resolve like iron burning inside. Very well. At dawn, the army reached Moat Cailin, the ancient choke point of the neck. Reed banners flapped from ramparts, green snakes on brown field. Howland Reed waited, gray of beard yet bright of eye. He guided them along secret dikes winding through bog where lizard lions prowled. The marshland smelled of peat, water, and something older. Reed wove a path safe from the bog devils, specters said to drown noise with illusions. He taught soldiers to knot rushes and wear them at belt. Such tokens, he claimed, fooled the devil's hunger. Tormund laughed, but he tied one anyway. Crossing the neck took 2 days. Tension simmered but never boiled. Perhaps the calm before sea storms. At Greywater Watch, hidden among floating islands, Reed hosted Jon and Frostmother in a hall roofed by weirwood boughs. There, Bran's consciousness joined them through carved faces, voice resonating from every leaf. Old Town's beacon dims, he warned. Priests gather at the Well of Ashes, and Arya's blood stains their altar. Jon's fist clenched. We reach Maidenpool within 2 days, and sail straight for Old Town. To that end, they made for Seaguard, rather than White Harbor, skirting along the Green Fork. Riverland hosts joined them, Edmure's bowmen, Blackwood ravagers, Piper horsemen singing bawdy songs of pre-dawn courage. Every new banner whitened northern wolves with frost. But the Frostmother took it in stride, explaining to each lord the rules. No torches near ice sentinels, no steel bared in jest, no insult of white to her people. Most complied out of dread or curiosity. On the cusp of the Trident's mouth, they met Manderly's fleet, sails green and white swelling under stiff wind. Sir Wendell, fat and merry despite war, saluted from the prow of the stout fish. "The sea is calm for monsters," he shouted. "Let's hope it stays so." Loading the army onto ships was chaos. Mules balking, Karstarks arguing with Manderly deckhands, ice sentinels gliding aboard so lightly planks barely creaked. Rienne oversaw stowage of Heartspear crates deep below deck. Jon took the flagship, a carrack named Northwind. Ghost roamed its timber halls uneasy. They cast off at dawn, streaked by thin scarlet clouds. The fleet hugged the coast to avoid ironborn reavers still prowling mid-sea. Rain misted, cold but gentle. As day eased into slate-gray afternoon, a chorus of horns echoed across waves. Ahead rose the stone towers of Pike's Lesser Isles, remote, jagged. A squadron of longships emerged like shark fin. Black sails bore the Kraken of House Greyjoy. Jon braced for battle, but the lead longship lowered its sail to reveal white sheets, repurposed as banners of truce. Upon the prow stood Yara Greyjoy, braids whipping. She cupped a brass speaker horn. "Stark," she barked. "I owe you a kingdom's debt. We ride the tide with you this day." Behind her, axemen roared. The Kraken fleet drew alongside. Ropes tossed, parley conducted swiftly. Yara pledged 20 ships to screen the flank. In exchange, Jon guaranteed the Iron Islands a seat at any post-war council shaping new trade. By dusk, the Allied flotilla resembled a swarming silverfish trail, sails of every color. Fires glimmered aboard each deck, songs drifted. Riverlanders' lutes, ironborn drums, Manderly choir hymns. Yet above them, the violet smear along horizon brightened. Visible even through overcast, it loomed like a wound glimpsed through cloth. Storms struck on the second night. Sheets of rain flensed sailors' faces raw. Thunder hammered masts. Yara's ships danced nimble among waves, but cargo-laden cogs wallowed. 3 times Northwind's deck flooded to ankles. Men bailed in frantic rhythm. Lightning branched into sea, boiling water. In the gale, Jon climbed to quarterdeck, hair plastered, cloak a sodden flag. Ghosts slipped, regained footing. Above, an eerie shimmer of shapes pulsed within the clouds. Massive silhouettes of things that might have been serpents, or ribs of a world-long corpse. Frostmother joined him, unmoved by wind. "The veil thins," she said. "Storms are its sign." Jon shouted over roar. "Can you still shield us?" She raised both arms. From fingertips blossomed a lattice of crystalline mist arching above the fleet. Rain hissed against it, partly diverted. The shield glowed faint blue. Sailors gawped in awe, but Frost Mother trembled. First sign of strain Jon had ever seen. He grasped her elbow. Ice cracked along her forearm. She shook head. "I will hold," she insisted, voice frost roughened. The storm eased near dawn, leaving decks slick with new ice. 2 cogs had vanished, swallowed by surf or by those cloud shapes. Jon ordered search boats. They found only splintered wood. Sorrow weighed the survivors, but Yara shouted them alive, promising Kraken vengeance on cosmic gods. Even Frost Mother allowed a thin smile. On the 5th day, Old Town's spires rose on horizon, half shrouded in haze. Hightower's beacon, once a golden lance, now flashed irregular pulses, green, gold, violet. A dull hum vibrated through hull planks. Jon felt it in teeth. Gulls shrieked and veered away. Closer. The air tasted metallic. They anchored beyond the Honeywine Delta, marsh islands teeming with reeds and mosquitoes large as knuckles. Scouts rowed ashore. Report returned swift. City gates sealed. Black banners with spiral sigils draped upon Hightower curtain walls. From Citadel's highest balcony, purple smoke coiled skyward. Jon convened War Council aboard Northwind's cabin. Edmure, Yara, Lady Lyanna, Brienne, Gendry, Tormund, Frostmother, Master Vulcan, and Lord Hightower's cousin Sir Baelor, captured at harbor while seeking safe passage for his family. Baelor, cheeks hollow, related horrors. Priests had breached lowest vaults and seized the great lenses. Small folk either fled or were sacrificed at midnight rites. Arya rumored alive but bound within black room under tower. Jon unfurled map. Dut. We strike 3 prongs. Riverlanders and Ironborn storm the harbor gate. Northmen scale the old fissures, climb on western wall. Ice sentinels and silence legions enter through catacombs beneath sept of the streams. Bran's ravens found path yesterday. Objective. Seize a beacon, free captives, shatter mirrors and close rift. Nalai, Frostmother added, when beacon dims, rift will manifest wholly in the sky over starry sept. We will open hearts of legion in sept's courtyard. Their sacrifice must coincide with rift's peak expansion. All nodded solemnly. Hours later, pre-dawn gloom swaddled the fleet as crews loaded longboats. Armor creaked, and the hush of the Honeywine was broken only by the faint pulse of the distant beacon. Jon donned dragonglass laminated breastplate, a gift from Gendry, then held the chest of bloodglass hearts. He inhaled once, long and deliberate, exhaling into its interior. The gemstones glowed deeper. He closed lid, ironwood groaning. Silent, one. They rowed small craft up the estuary, reeds brushing hulls. Northwind's surgeon had wrapped oars in rawhide to muffle splash. In mist, the silhouette of Old Town's wharves looked like ribs of some vast whale. Figures paced above, green cloaks bearing torches tinted violet. Beneath the water, unseen currents whispered of old doom. Sudden explosion, plume of emerald flames tore at the night where Yara's longships beached upriver, drawing watches from harbor wall. Ironborn horns blared. Edmure's bowmen launched flaming arrows. Battle erupted, but as intended. Far from Fisher's climb, Jon signaled. His group dashed across mudflat, scrambling up barnacle-slick rocks. Even ghosts struggled. Tormund heaved Brienne upward. She planted hooks, hauled rope. Northmen followed. Arrows hissed down. But Frostmother lifted palm. Air crystallized, bolts shattering mid-drop. They gained the rampart. Silent sentinel spear plunging into first guard before he could shriek. Brienne blocked second. Gendry cracked helm with hammer. Jon passed through breach, leading charge along parapet. Below, streets lay eerily deserted, spiral sigils daubed in chalk on doorposts. Only priests patrolled in pairs, murmuring hymns the color of rot. The Northmen advanced beneath banners wreathed in morning fog, cutting down sentries quickly. Soon they reached the square of scribes. Statue of Archmaester Galadon toppled, shards circling pedestal like frozen tears. Frostmother paused. She felt the hum stronger. Riftnir's bloom. Above, the Hightower's upper windows glowed violet like lidless eyes. Brand's ravens swooped overhead, cawing thrice. Signal. Catacomb path secure. Jon ordered sentinel detachment to break off, carrying heart chests. They vanished into narrow lane. Meanwhile, Tormund led a dozen toward Harbor Gate to aid Edmure. From distant boom and quake, Ironborn battle raged and walls cracked. Jon, Brienne, Lyanna, Gendry, and Frostmother pushed for Hightower's base. Ghost looked ahead. As they neared the granite sheer, a roar erupted behind. A tide of priests flooding out of Temple of the Westeray Mother. Their blades were sickles of mirror-bright obsidian. Their chanting rose to fever pitch. Frostmother stepped between them and Jon's group, carving runic circle mid-air. Shards of brittle frost flew, slicing first ranks like glass. Yet more pressed. Gendry hefted hammer, bellowed, and charged. Lyanna ducked under blows that would cleave men twice her height. Dirk flashing, voice raised in war cry Bear Island mothers taught their babes. Jon surged with them. Longclaw sang against sickle edge. Sparks of dusk and ice flew. He fought through corridor of chanting bodies until he reached the tower entry arch. Ghost leapt, dragging priest to ground. Brienne's shield smashed 2 more. Frostmother's incantation froze door hinges. With Gendry's hammer they shattered open path. Inside, spiraling stairs wound interminably. Violet light seeped down shafts. They ascended, footfalls echoing on quarried stone. Halfway, a barred door blocked their path. Jon leaned shoulder, too solid. Brienne swung shield thrice. Wood groaned, but held. Frostmother touched iron bolts. They iced, cracked. Door gave. They poured through. A hall opened, walls lined with mirrors angled toward a huge obsidian disc suspended by iron chains over a deep shaft. At hall's center, a dais of bleached bone shaped like blooming spiral. Upon it stood Arya Stark, arms bound to pillars, runes carved shallow into skin. Her face turned when she heard boots, eyes fierce despite pain. Priests flanked her, chanting louder. One raised a dagger tipped with star glass to cut deeper. "No more," Jon roared. He launched, Longclaw cleaving priest's arm at elbow. Gendry freed Arya's left shackle with 2 hammer strikes. Brienne cut right binding. Frostmother unleashed lance of blue light that froze chain and mirror, causing the giant disc to shiver. Arya staggered but caught herself. She seized fallen dagger with unbroken hand. "Late, as usual, brother," she rasped. Jon grinned briefly. "Couldn't let you steal all glory." Priests rallied near shaft lip. They drew patterns mid-air. Violet threads thickened, lashing outward like whips. One struck Jon's shoulder, searing cloth and raising well. Arya spun, dagger arcs severing a thread that reached for Gendry. Together, they backed onto dais as Brienne and Lyanna formed shield wall fronting them. Frostmother stepped to shaft rim. With a hand gesture, she redirected mirror's gleam toward priests. Light of their own power, charred robes, shriveling arms. Screams echoes descended. "Leave," Frostmother said to Jon, voice like cracking glacier. "Take Arya. Finish above. I will break lenses." Jon hesitated. Her antler crown sagged, icicles dripping blood like water. She was weakening, but she met his eyes, I must. He nodded. The group sprinted for stair, continuing upward, Arya limping yet swift. Behind us, I exploded. Frostmother's song became thunder. The mirror tore free, shattering an avalanche of shards. Violet glare strobed as lens fragments sliced priests and dais alike. Higher and higher they climbed until steps ended at iron hatch. Arya picked lock single-handed. Hatch swung onto wind-swept rooftop. Bishy. Dawn had broken, but skies blazed wrong. Over starry sept hovered a rift, oval, pulsing violet black, edges licking outward like petals of void. Tendrils drooped, touching tower peaks and plazas below. Where they brushed stone, marble turned to glassy obsidian. From harbor, horns sounded. Edmure's, Yara's, the Ironborn had breached sea walls. Smoke curled. Arrows soared. On rooftop stood a figure cloaked in robes interwoven with starlight. High priest of the Crimson Spiral. Face hidden behind mask, carved from meteorite. Void black with swirling silver specks. He held a rod of fused mirror shards, topped by a heart shard. He turned as Jon emerged, voice like echo through cathedral depths. Too late, child of wrong winter. We feast on dawn. Jon stepped forward. Wind dragged cloak. This realm chooses life. Priest lifted rod. Rift flared. Tendril whipped, but Longclaw parried, frost fusing along steel. Arya darted low, slashing Priest's knee. He hissed, stunned. Gendry's hammer struck Mask's jaw. Silver specks exploded outward, revealing a face without flesh. Skull misted by starlight. Priest croaked to chant. Rift howled. Sky deepened to indigo. Lightning of violet cracked among clouds. On plaza below, Silence legions marched. Sentinels leading, heart spears glowing, living volunteers behind them. Jon felt chest throb where blood glass waited far below. Seal it, Arya urged. Jon inhaled, long and fierce, memory swirling. Winterfell's crypt air, laughter of Shireen as she fed Davos onions, Lyanna Stark's statue, first sunrise after resurrection. He exhaled, shaping breath into one word. Remember. Sound carried like hornblast. Chest far below burst open. Blood glass hearts ignited blue inside white warrior hollows. New legions, more than he expected, erupted from catacomb entrances. Tall beings forged of ice around cores of rippling red-blue. They marched into starry sept courtyard. Priest recoiled. Tendrils lashed at Jon, Arya, Gendry. Lyanna raised shield, deflecting energy that melted iron rim to slag. Arya flipped over fallen stone, dagger finding Rod's handle. She twisted, cracking it. Heart shard flew free. Jon caught it barehanded. Cold burned his palm, but he held tight. He pressed shard to chest, thinking of Bran. Light poured, connecting him to Silence, Legion below. Courtyard scene unfolded in his mind. Legionnaires planting spears in geometric lattice. Tendrils whipped at them, but they absorbed glow, bodies fracturing into glimmer dust that wove into net across rift space. Each collapse sealed portion of wound. Jon guided them, anchored by heart shard in hand. Priest screeched, turned to push Jon off parapet. Brienne interposed, shield raised. Impact hurled her back, but saved Jon. Gendry roared, swung hammer. Priest's ribcage shattered. Yet he reformed, starlight stitching bones. Then Frostmother appeared on roof. Armor cracked, icicles dripping. She limped, but eyes blazed. She spoke words older than frost. A song so sorrowful windows below frosted and shattered. Priest staggered. She reached Jon, placed hand over his gripping of shard. Together, she whispered. Jon poured memory into shard. Vows of night's watch. Kiss by Longclaw Gate. coronation at Winterfell. Frostmother added hers. Birth of first ice child, packed with children of forest. Shard erupted into beam, lancing Rift's heart. Silence legions exploded in chain reaction of blue-white light. The net tightened, folding Rift inward. Tendrils shrieked, ripped away from rooftops, dragging priests with them. High priests screamed as mask crumbled. Starlight face melted like wax. With final shockwave, Rift imploded into single spark and winked out. Sky clarified into rose gold dawn. Silence. Jon swayed. Frostmother caught him, though her body cracked with the motion. "It is done," she said, voice faint. Below, horns rang. This time, in triumph. Sailors roared from harbor. Edmure's banners waved. Bells of starry sept chimed, their notes clear. Arya exhaled. Brienne sank to knees, exhausted. Gendry slumped against parapet, grin split by blood running down cheek. Lyanna leaned on shield, eyes ablaze with pride. Yet, as relief bloomed, Frostmother slowly uncurled her hand from Jon's. Pieces of her arm flaked off in glittering snow. "The cost was dear," she murmured. Cracks traced along her chest. Jon grabbed her shoulders. "No." She smiled, a delicate break of frost petals. "Winter finds its spring through sacrifice." She touched his cheek with finger light as falling flake. "Remember us." Then her form shattered into a cloud of ice crystals, spinning upward into sunrise, catching light in 1,000 sparkling shards before fading. Jon knelt amid still settling snow, heart heavy but steady. He looked to horizon, violet smear gone, replaced by soft pearl. Bells still tolled. Below, silence legion dust drifted upon streets like first snow of winter, settling into cobbles, cracks. Life would sprout through those cracks, memories sealed inside stone. He rose. Arya clasped his forearm. "We won. Today," he said. "But other rifts remain." She nodded, fierce grin. "Then we ride until night retire." Jon gazed over a city where smoke curled from smoldering harbors, yet people emerged from hiding places, tentative hope in their eyes. He looked beyond to sea and mountains. The world still turned beneath uncertain stars, and new alliances, born of ice and flesh, would be tested again. But for this breath, dawn felt warm on his scar-lined skin. And that warmth carried a seed of spring. He tucked Heartshard into pouch and strode toward stair. Ghost followed, tail sweeping frost. Bells rang louder, a song of fragile triumph. And far in the north a raven turned its flight toward Winterfell, bearing news that the first battle for the world's memory had been won. By union of Lily, and the ones dead, by vows whispered beneath snow-heavy skies, and by love remembered at the brink of oblivion.